So, Patrik Berglund's first season in Buffalo has taken a pretty unexpected turn, to say the least, hasn't it, folks? Make sure you're sitting comfortably, boys and girls. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now, suspensions aren't uncommon during an NHL season, as there are always players that like to go beyond the league's rulebook and commit an illegal act during a game. However, there are some instances, albeit them pretty rare, of a team suspending a player for actions that they have committed off the ice between games. And it turns out one of these big suspendable offences has taken place within the Buffalo Sabres organisation within the last few days. I told you this was going to be an interesting one, folks. I hope you're ready. So, the rather surprising news we are looking at today comes from an article written by the Buffalo News, titled, "Sabres Suspend Patrik Berglund Indefinitely for Failure to Report." Well, this doesn't look good, does it? Sounds like somebody might have overslept and missed a meeting or two. Berglund, acquired from St. Louis as part of the Ryan O'Reilly trade in July, has 2 goals and 2 assists with a -5 rating in 23 games this season. Coach Phil Housley said Berglund missed the past 2 games because of an illness. Ah, yes, of course. Illness. What illness was it, you may be wondering? Well, we have no idea, they didn't say. It's probably nothing serious, though. Something like a stomach bug, or the flu, or not playing very well-itis, something like that. Being serious for a moment, though, something tells me that whatever has led to this conclusion has been going on for quite a while between Berglund and the Buffalo Sabres. The fact that the illness was never fully disclosed sounds to me like they're using the illness as a cover-up for something bigger that's taking place. Ah, the plot thickens. The team announced the suspension in a news release, adding there will be no additional information or comment at this time. Well, I mean, there isn't really anything else to say, is there? You kinda hit the nail on the head on this one, lads. Short, sweet, straight to the point. The exact opposite of pretty much every single tutorial video on YouTube. All I want to do is learn how to remove the background of a photo off Paint, but no, I have to sit through 3 minutes of intro before they actually explain what to do, which only takes 45 seconds. YouTubers are just the worst, aren't they? Hang on a minute. Berglund's struggles with Buffalo began October 16th, when a dropped coverage on a penalty kill in a loss to the Vegas Golden Knights resulted in him being a healthy scratch. So he's been a healthy scratch in multiple games already this season, and he's missed several games due to an undisclosed illness. Something seems fishy here. Berglund has not played since a 6-2 loss to Philadelphia at KeyBank Center on December 8th, and has posted a -5 rating over his last 3 games. He is under contract for 3 more seasons with a $3.85 million annual cap hit. Well, there's worse ways to earn $11.5 million, I guess. Why play hockey and earn your paycheck that way, when you can sit on your ass and watch other people play hockey on TV and earn your paycheck that way? Other people have done it, like Rick DiPietro. He's earning $1.5 million every year for the next decade. I mean, say what you want about the guy, but he looks like he's got life figured out. Oh, New York Islanders, never change. Just never change. So, there hasn't really been any more news on this other than what we've just looked at, and this is bound to raise a ton of questions from fans, especially Buffalo Sabres fans, as to what is actually happening and why it has come to this conclusion. However, a slight update on the situation came from NHL insider Elliotte Friedman on Hockey Night in Canada's Saturday headline segment a couple of days ago. He believes that Berglund's contract status and reluctant trade to Buffalo might have started off this fractured relationship between player and team that has snowballed up until this point. According to DieByTheBlade.com, Friedman stated that Berglund had a full no-trade clause that expired on June 30th, and it then switched to a modified no-trade clause from then on. Berglund apparently did not get his updated no-trade list to the St. Louis Blues in time, and the trade to Buffalo was then able to go through. So a missed deadline from Berglund meant that he was shipped to another team he didn't want to play for in the first place. Whilst Berglund was probably pretty bummed out that he left St. Louis, and he probably didn't want to play for the Sabres, he's still a professional hockey player, and he has a commitment to the Buffalo Sabres whilst he's still contracted to the team. Unless he's struggling with an unrelated issue to hockey off the ice, he still has an obligation to see out the rest of his contract and play for the Buffalo Sabres for the next 3 seasons until the contract is over. If Berglund is going through something personal and it's completely unrelated to hockey, then the fans don't need to know. It's none of their business. A player doesn't owe an explanation to the fans if something completely unrelated to hockey is going on in their lives. The franchise, however, needs to and probably will elaborate further as to what's been going on in a well-constructed statement that we hear in due course. Whilst I sympathise with Berglund to an extent, as it's clear that he never wanted to leave St. Louis, people have to do jobs they don't want to do all the time, because they're contractually obligated to do so, just like Patrik Berglund is. Sure, he might have wanted to stay in St. Louis and he signed the contract with St. Louis, but it's part of the business. He was traded to Buffalo and he has to see out the rest of that contract, regardless of whether he wants to be a Buffalo Sabre or not. And besides, the Sabres are actually playing pretty well this year. And have you seen where the St. Louis Blues are in the standings? I think you got out at the right time, Berglund. Friedman also talked on the show about how all sides are looking for a solution and that voiding his contract is on the table. If Berglund really isn't happy in Buffalo, then perhaps voiding his contract is the best thing to do moving forwards. Indefinitely suspending Berglund means that Buffalo can void the rest of his contract and it won't affect their salary cap moving forwards. So doing this might be the best way forwards for both parties involved. If they void the contract, Berglund gets to leave the team that he doesn't really want to play for, maybe sign with another NHL team or move overseas, and the Buffalo Sabres get to get rid of this contract worth $11 million, $3.85 each season, and they can use that nice big chunk of change to go and sign other players that are key to their franchise long term. Considering he only has 4 points so far this season, I think this might be the best way forwards, and I think it benefits both parties more than some of the other options that are available. But regardless of what has happened or is going to happen in this story, I really do hope that everything is okay with Patrik Berglund off the ice. I really hope that nothing awful or bad is happening in Berglund's life off the ice, as you hate to see something like that happen to a player, and especially when it's unrelated to hockey. Fans very much fixate on the fact that he's got 4 points this season. He might be having a really, really rough time off the ice, and that's causing his drop in production, and he might not be fitting in very well with Buffalo. And that's kind of why I've tried to be a little bit more careful with some of the jokes I've made in this video. I don't want to make loads of really funny jokes and ridicule Patrik Berglund loads and loads, but then we find out that something really serious has happened, like there's an illness in the family, or somebody's passed away, or Berglund's really suffering from mental health issues, or something like that. I'd hate to make a really, really funny video that takes the piss out of him, essentially, but then we find out something really serious has been happening behind the scenes. I would hate to do that, and I'd feel really bad about doing that as somebody that doesn't really have a problem with Patrik Berglund. He's kind of a player that's been in the NHL for a little while. I've never really had a problem with him as a player or as a person in general, so that's why I've kind of steered my jokes a little bit more to the cheesy ones, sort of not really related to the specifics in this. First of all, because we don't really know many of the specifics in this situation, but because I don't want to cause a problem for Patrik Berglund, or I don't want there to be seen as I'm having a go at Patrik Berglund even though he's had all of this stuff going on. We don't know what's going on. It might be something completely different. Maybe he missed a couple of team practices, or maybe he overslept and missed a few meetings and the Sabres had had enough of him. Maybe it's something as harmless or as silly and self-inflicted as that. But we don't know that yet, so I've kind of wanted to be a little bit careful with the jokes that I've made in this video. But with that, I am going to end today's video. What do you think about Patrik Berglund's indefinite suspension from the Buffalo Sabres? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Chris Gadsby and Max Artis for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of any future videos, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.